All right, President McClure, thank you for allowing me to come today. I'll just take these verbatim.
Okay.
Are there others in your family who have also exhibited a tendency to seek adventure? Is there an adrenaline gene that has been passed down?
There's definitely no adrenaline gene. There aren't even any athletes in the last 3 generations of my family. My father literally cuts his hands on newsprint. Not handy at all. My mother will faint if you throw a frisbee or a ball in her direction, so I'm a genetic freak. As for adrenaline, my adventures really haven't had that much adrenaline. Skiing 750 miles doesn't give you an adrenaline boost. Or rowing 3,000 miles doesn't give you an adrenaline. Row 12 hours a day and see how much adrenaline you get out of it. Yeah.
You're a world-class athlete. Are there other competitive sports in which you compete or physical activities in which you regularly participate?
Well, I still row, and then I roller ski in the park every morning. It's cross-country skiing on wheels, and it's important to note that I either row a single scull, most typically, or ski. These are not sports that other people in Louisville, Kentucky do, so it feeds my introverted side, right? I'm out among other people, but they can't speak to me because, skis are flying or poles are flying or oars are in the way, and it suits me.
Muhammad Ali lived for some time in Nelson County, Virginia, not far from the MBU campus. Tell us a little more about your association and work with this legend and humanitarian.
Well, I worked for Muhammad Ali for about a year between the time I had an unsuccessful attempt to row across the ocean. I was hit by a hurricane. And then my successful row, I was the first full-time employee of what is now the Muhammad Ali Center. And it was a really magical time for me, not at the beginning, because I was still going through that sense of really despair and failure from my first attempt to row solo across the ocean. And it wasn't really a sense of, there was this accomplishment I had to have. It was a sense that I needed to learn something that I hadn't yet learned. And Muhammad knew where I was as a human being better than I did. And he knew what it was like to fail on a worldwide stage. Because you don't get to be the world champion 3 times if you don't lose twice along the way. And so it was like he would swing by every, month or so and punch me in the arm or do something that essentially said, hey kid, you gotta get up, you gotta get up, you gotta. And then eventually he said, Tori, you don't want to go through life as the woman who almost rowed across the ocean. So I went back and finished. Oh, but he also is connected with Spalding University. He learned to box in the Columbia Gym, which is part of Spalding's campus. He was a 12-year-old boy, and he rode his red bicycle over to get some popcorn and hot dogs at a little home show that was going on in the building. And while he was eating hot dogs and popcorn, somebody stole his bike. And so he said, I'm gonna beat somebody up. They stole my bike. And he went to a white police officer, Joe Martin, and said, somebody stole my bike. And the police officer said, if you're going to beat somebody up, you're going to have to learn how to box. And so Joe Martin got him started in boxing, and the rest, as they say, is history.
What has been the greater challenge? Rowing unassisted across the ocean by yourself, skiing to the geographic South Pole, or facing the challenges of steering a private liberal arts university in this quickly shifting higher education landscape? In all seriousness, what do you think will be among the keys for success for small universities to thrive in coming years?
Well, there are definitely more sharks and dangerous creatures leading an institution of higher education than there are in the ocean, or that would threaten you from a rowboat in the ocean. So skiing to the South Pole was physically more difficult. Rowing across the ocean involved more solitude. But the challenges in higher education right now are real and profound, and the sense of privilege, the sense of leaving people behind. The students we educate, the students we can't because they're not educated to a high enough level to even be permitted to come to a place like Spalding is really, it's a really tough thing for us to ponder. And when we look at the challenges of the world today, that sense of what is the responsibility of the educated elite, and if you're getting a college degree right now, you're the educated elite, whether you want to count yourself among that or not. You don't have to be at a medallion institution to be among the educated elite. What is our responsibility to the folks we've left behind? The folks who weren't able to get a college education for reasons of poverty or trauma or some other thing that went on in their life. And what I like about being at an institution like the one I serve, Spalding, is that most of our students have been through something. And we talk about being a compassionate university, and I don't think we turn away from people in pain because we don't care. We turn away from people in pain because we don't know what to do. And that's the value of education, is teaching people what to do, teaching people how to make a difference.
A question for Mary Baldwin Sr., Erica Haynes. 81 days is a long time. What dominated your thoughts while rowing solo across the ocean?
Well, Erica, there were days when I really thought I could prove the speed of light is not a constant. I really thought I could do the math. I had it all figured out. Because I still don't think the speed of light is a constant. I think we just say that to make the math possible for our puny little brains. And then there were other days when I was thinking, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. Because, which is a weird song for a vegetarian to be singing on the ocean, but when a song gets stuck in your head on the ocean, it really gets stuck in your head. And, oh, by the way, we had this arcane system for music back then. It was called a cassette tape. Or between the first row and the second row, there was this great innovation. We went from cassette tapes to CDs. And the CDs were better because when they got wet, you could just wipe them off. When a cassette tape got wet with salt water, it was all over.
That's great. A question from staffer Dawn Medley. Your diverse education background includes, you know what it includes. What led you from one seemingly unrelated degree to another and to pursue such a diverse range of work?
Oh, well, that's a great question, because when folks look at sort of the trajectory of my life, they think I've been going in different directions. But from my perspective, I've been going in the same direction, crossing different terrain. Like I like to talk, I used to study explorers and Lewis and Clark. You know, they were charged to find an all-water route across the North American continent. Well, if that was their charge, you would think they would surround themselves with, good boatmen, people who really knew water, who really knew how to move across water. And if they had done that, they would have failed because there wasn't any all-water route in the area they were searching for it. And so that sense of surrounding yourself with people who have a variety of skills. And so first I cross a snowy continent, then I cross some water, now I'm crossing a field of higher ed. It all feels like moving in the same direction. And the direction for me has always been the challenge of toggling between a world of privilege, like when I was in divinity school at Harvard, and toggling across Boston to work with homeless people. And seeing this tremendous juxtaposition of the most privileged environment on the planet to the most, people living in a dumpster. And how do we make sense of that? How can we justify our comfort and our ease? And so I've learned what it is. I know I can survive most places on the planet with 30 pounds of gear and some food really comfortably. Probably 14 pounds of gear and some food less comfortably. But that the things society tells us we have to be happy and secure, there's just a lot of things that are superfluous and we forget what's important. Now, folks who know me know my social skills aren't always my highest priority because I tend to live between my ears a little too much. But at the end of the day, it's about relationships and friendship and love. And when I finished skiing to the South Pole, someone gave me a quote from Hilaire Belloc, which said, "Nothing is worth the wear of winning but laughter and the love of friends." And when I think about times like commencement and times of achievement and times when you're passing a milestone, it's important to remember nothing is worth the wear of winning but laughter and the love of friends.
Final question from a 2007 graduate, Allison Kaufman. What else is on Tori's bucket?
Well, Allison, I feel really lucky because here at Spalding we've been doing the Gallup sort of Strengths Quest surveys for a while, and my number one trait is I'm a learner. So I just like to learn new things, and for my younger life, it was, okay, I want to learn something that's going to help me climb this mountain, or learn something that's going to help me build a boat to row it across the ocean. And now it's, being in higher ed, there's always a great debate about liberal arts and what's liberal arts and what's professional studies, and because we shouldn't be engaged in professional studies, we should just be engaged in learning for learning's sake. Well, in that case, learning for learning's sake has to do with learning things that you're not necessarily going to use to make a living. So for a university president, I don't know, learning to weld might be a liberal art. And I'd like to learn to weld. I'd like to learn things I don't know how to do. I'd like to spend time with interesting people. It's less about, when people ask my husband, what's Tori going to do next? He says she's going to row to the North Pole, which would combine the rowing and the cold. And yeah, that might be possible, but I have too much to lose at this particular juncture in life. And so finding something new to learn every year, if not every day, is something that fires me up. And it's also now more about what I can help other people do than it is about what I myself can achieve.
Thank you for your time.